One of history's most bizarre events is currently occurring in our economy. Recent generations are less wealthy than their parents were. Yes, historically speaking, any generation that enters our society is typically wealthier than the one before it. You'll see that here in this chart. This graph measures average hourly earnings in the UK with the different generations. For example, in light green you'll see the generation coming up to World War II, which obviously didn't have the success that the subsequent generation you'll see in dark blue, the so-called baby boomers. And as you'll see, each subsequent generation gets to move up the curve even further as they get to earn more money than their parents. But this trend has just taken a tremendous turn, and the first to be affected are the millennial generation. That's correct, for the first time in history, millennials will be poorer than their parents. They won't be able to buy a home, it will be tough for them to start a family, they'll be deeper in debt than before, and it's predicted that they won't be able to build wealth as their parents did via saving and investing. The millennial age will be followed by the so-called Zeta generations, who will be much impoverished, thus the problem doesn't end there. That's true, a survey by the American Consumer Agency found that Group Z has 86% less purchasing power than the baby boomers, the group that came of age immediately following World War II. How is it possible that millennials and Generation Z are poorer than their parents? This trend is disturbing and will lead to extremely major economic problems in the US and developed nations. Although the solution is complicated, it directly impacts you. One of the worst economic crises in history struck the entire planet in 2008. The most significant banks and businesses in the world filed for bankruptcy in a matter of months, putting the entire global economic system in danger and having effects worse than the Great Depression. These gloomy years, when large banks collapsed one after another, are difficult to recall. And because the repercussions of not doing so may have been disastrous, governments opted to bail out these banks and firms in order to prevent economic turmoil worldwide. Because despite their bailouts, the global economy was permanently harmed. Increased unemployment, a slowing economy, and a climate of uncertainty prevailed. The most significant component in this scenario was unemployment. Millions of people around the world lost their jobs despite government bailouts. And thanks to the uncertainty and low economic growth, unemployment remained high for a long time. The millennial generation, which was then beginning to enter the labor market, was immediately impacted by this. The millennial generation includes all individuals born between 1981 and 1995. Millennials faced significant challenges, including high unemployment rates and tough competition from those with more experience. As you might expect, the decisions you make early in your career will have an ongoing effect on the years that follow. Give me an example. It's similar to running a race. If you falter early, you'll probably come in last. Well, millennials experienced just that. They couldn't develop wealth or save money if they didn't have work. Additionally, there was intense competition for decent jobs due to the high unemployment rate, and businesses seized the opportunity by establishing unpaid internships. As a result, businesses were able to take advantage of young people who were unemployed and lacking experience by offering them internships with little pay, limited benefits, and a precarious financial condition. The situation gradually began to improve over the 2010s. Economic expansion resumed, and relative stability was attained. However, the second crisis, the pandemic, interrupted this development. As you may know, the epidemic wreaked havoc on the economies of the world, forcing governments to step in once more to prevent a financial meltdown. Additionally, the crisis had a catastrophic impact on the labor market despite their best efforts at rescue. Many people, especially those who had recently entered the workforce, found themselves without jobs. Generation Z, which had a similar rocky start in the job market as the millennials, enters the picture at this point. But millennials were also impacted by the pandemic. Millennials were now in a mature stage in their professions and aiming to advance to more responsible roles. However, the pandemic altered the economy and caused the closure of numerous industries, which diminished or halted chances for job creation. In conclusion, these two crises were the most important and significant causes of the financial struggles millennials experienced, yet these struggles had far-reaching effects. The modern labor market has a very serious issue. Most employers want a high degree of education as well as some form of experience in order to have a successful job. Both are, in fact, more expensive and more elusive than ever. Yes, costs for college have soared. Here in this graph you will see how college prices have risen in the United States. As you'll see, since 1980 college prices have gone up on average almost 170%, while below you'll see salaries for young people. As you will see, wages have only gone up 20%. Now here I want to show you another graph. Here you will see in red how much college was worth adjusting in today's dollars. In 1970, college in the United States cost you $358 a year in today's dollars. Whereas today, on average you would pay $9,349. Now, here in blue you can see the inflation-adjusted price. As you can see, college is 4 times more expensive today than it was before adjusting for inflation. Of course, someone would assert that college is no longer necessary. Okay, so it's not. In reality, a college degree is more crucial than ever if you want to compete in the employment market. Here in this graph you will see how much education the different generations have. In dark green are the people who don't even have a high school degree. As you'll see, older generations had a higher proportion, while today only 8% of millennials don't have a high school degree. And moving up the academic ranks, let's talk about bachelor's degrees. For the oldest generation in the chart shows that only 15% had a bachelor's degree. Today 39% of millennials have a bachelor's degree. Of course, employers choose the most qualified candidates when hiring. This is supply and demand law. If there is a competent supply, they will undoubtedly select the top applicant. Additionally, if there are too many individuals with college degrees, you will need one as well in order to compete. The reason why I explain this is because Generation Z and Millennials have had to borrow money to pay for college because it has become more expensive. And this is just another barrier to this generation's health. Here in this graphic you will see something that will make your hair stand on end. Here you have 4 different colors representing 4 types of debt in the United States. As you'll see in green, these are vehicle debt. Americans owe almost $1.5 trillion in debt to buy their cars. But here in yellow you'll see credit card debt, which equals almost $1 trillion. In blue you'll see other types of debt. In red you'll see student debt. Student debt is one of the largest debts we have and exceeds $1.7 trillion. This figure in the United States alone is so large that it is the size of the economies of Mexico and Argentina combined. And who, in your opinion, owes the bulk of these student loans? Well, given the high cost of their college education, millennials and Generation Z, starting your work with a substantial student loan debt is a huge challenge, as you may guess. Add to that the fact that you began your job during a pandemic or severe recession. Well, many millennials and members of Generation Z had to lead that life, which was something that previous generations were not required to do. If you are enjoying this video and want to be aware of new videos, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. It is the law of life that people want to fall in love and have children. At least, it was up until this point. The generations having fewer children and, when they do, having them later are the Millennials and Generation Z. That's true, because of the economic situation these younger generations are in, the 2 most significant life events, getting married and having children, are being put on hold. Here in this graph you will see how these key events have been suspended. The dark blue dots are the average numbers for millennials, while the red dots indicate the average numbers for baby boomers. As you'll see, important events like getting married, having children, buying a house, and even things like leaving a job or a relationship have had to be put on hold due to lack of money. And to underscore this, here I want to show you another graph. This graph shows us the percentage of the generations that are married. As you will see, 50% of millennials between the ages of 25 to 37 are married, while in the generations of the 1968s more than 80% were married. But now I would like to show you a figure that is even more disturbing. Here in this graph you will see the percentage of each generation living with their parents. As you will see in dark green with the older generation, because very few people between the age of 25 to 37 lived with their parents. But in yellow you will see the millennials. Millennials who only have a high school degree, 20% live with their parents, while if you have a bachelor's degree, only 10% live with their parents. So all these figures are much higher than the other generations. Now here's the big question: how many millennials own their own homes? Well, in this graph we have the answer compared to the other generations. In purple you will see the percentage of millennials who own their own homes. As you will see, only 52% of millennials own a home. And mind you, millennials range in age from 27 to 42 years old, while past generations over 60% owned their own home and almost 80% of boomers owned their own home. Therefore, it is undeniable that millennials are the present poorest generation. They are the ones who make the least money, are the least likely to buy their own home, and are beginning to put off big life events. And as I mentioned, the Great Recession and the pandemic are just two examples of the economic disasters that millennials have had to deal with. But millennials' high levels of debt make this situation considerably worse. What effects will this have on the economy is the key question at hand. The answer, however, is not appealing. Numerous economists have already raised the alarm about this serious issue. In his book Adrift, Scott Galloway names one of them. He reveals in it how drastically things are falling apart in the US. The American dream was born after World War II and completely changed the global economy. The concept of having a home, a car, and the capacity for financial security was praised all around the world. As a result, the United States attracted a large number of immigrants and developed a highly robust middle class. The outcome was the emergence of the world's most dominant corporations, which helped the United States become a superpower. The American dream is fading, nevertheless, as a result of the current generation being in unfavorable economic circumstances. Since millennials are having problems purchasing a home and, in some cases, starting families, this will have a significant impact on the economy in the future. If you are a millennial or Generation Z, I would like you to leave in the comments your opinion and if you are really feeling these effects that we have discussed in the video.